Hi guys, Troy Worthen here with my teammate Alexi Toivonen from Evolve MMA. Today we're going to talk about something that's a fairly new concept, which is takedowns using a cage or a ring, because MMA bouts, known as mixed martial arts, are contested in a cage or a ring. Today we're going to use a cage, but it's pretty similar how you're going to use them because you have an immovable object so you can push your opponent against, or they can use to stand up themselves. So, like I said, this is relatively a new concept because there was no wrestling inside of a cage. Usually wrestling has a flat surface area with no barrier. If you go out of bounds, you restart in the open space. But once we started competing in mixed martial arts bouts, we had a cage. Now, it's a completely new medium to use as a takedown or a takedown defense. So this is a relatively new thing, and we're still learning about it every single day. So here's some of the things that I've found to work very well for me, important concepts, and stuff that I like to use on my own mixed martial arts bouts. Starting off, we're going to talk about using the cage as a barrier. If I initiate my takedowns from open space, eventually we're going to run into a wall, right? So if we're in open space and I take a double leg, it could stop me from getting the takedown if we run into it. I have to learn to use the give of this cage a little bit to my advantage. So if I run in a double leg, changing my level and penetrating through, and we run into the cage, I want to use that bounce to pull his legs out from under him. So I'm here, I take my shot, boom, we run into the cage. Now notice, there's a little bit of give there. He bounces off. I want to use that momentum to suck his legs out from under him and get an easy takedown. We're here, change my level, bounce him off the cage and pull the legs while keeping my posture. From here, I can start my ground and pound or passing to get to a more dominant position. Learning how to use that bounce is an art in itself. I can do the same thing with the single leg. Go ahead and switch stances so we have a good view. Now, let's say I lower my level, I penetrate, and have a head inside single leg. We're here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this bounce in the cage to let me elevate his leg, bringing it up high. From here, typically the guy's going to try and bring his leg to the outside because he doesn't want me to have access to his back. Now, I'm going to take my open hand and kind of club him and turn him over to where he has no leg. So we're here, I club and turn. Control this position, and now I can continue ground and pounding or passing. So, from taking a shot from the opening, that's two ways I like to use the cage in my advantage. Now, typically, you're going to see a lot of clinch work on the cage and starting from a dead stop, which means I don't get to use the momentum. I need to start in a position where we're already clinched on the cage. This can happen from taking a shot and him defending and pulling me up. So, if I take a double leg and we get here, he uses his overhook and pulls me up to a higher position. And now we're inside of a clinch. This is a very common position in mixed martial arts. There's two very, very important concepts here. Number one, I need to control the inside position with my head, which means I want to keep my head on this side of his body. The same side that I'm on is the same side I want my head. Sometimes I would like to be here to make sure that he can't run away to this side, but for the most part, I want to keep my head on the close side, controlling this position, considered the inside position. I also want to control the inside position with my arm. If I am over, I've given him an underhook and a way out. I don't want him to have any control here, so I'm going to come inside the bicep. You could also control inside position on the wrist, but I find it much harder because now they can rotate the wrist and break the lock, controlling my arm. I think coming inside the elbow and pinning it to the cage is a far superior position. It's much easier for me to control. The other very important concept is that underhook is king in this position. You can control with an overhook. It is possible, but the underhook here is a much stronger position, and it also gives me access to his legs. If I were to have an overhook, I would now have to get through his body to get back into a takedown. But since I have an underhook, there's nothing stopping me from dropping down to his legs. And that's why we control the head inside position. We're here, I have an underhook, I have controlled the inside bicep. Now there's nothing stopping me from getting to his legs. He can't stop my body from dropping my weight. All he has is this little bit of his forearm inside. And using my weight and gravity, I can just sag. I hope his bicep's not strong enough to hold my entire body, but Alexi's a pretty strong guy, so you never know. So, first things first, I'm going to take the shot. He's going to pull me up. I'm going to control inside position immediately. I take the shot. He pulls me up. I get my underhook, head, same side, and I pin that arm to the cage. Now from here, I'm going to start thinking about what attacks do I have. I want to drop my weight down, getting rid of this forearm, and putting my head straight to the cage, taking this hip away. When I do that, it makes it so he can no longer turn his hips away from me, and now I've secured his hips flat against the wall. Now, the second thing I need to do here, which is I need to make sure that my hands connect. If I don't connect my hands, he can start prying my hands open, and I'll never be able to finish the shot. So if we're here and I drop down, I want my hands to go connected behind his butt. Preferably nice and tight around the legs, and now I can flatten his hips. If I don't connect and I just try and grab the legs and muscle it, as soon as I go to pull, he'll pull my hands off, and now we're back to square one. So take your shot, head inside position, we drop our head down, and I connect my hands, making sure that I'm driving through the cage. Notice, I'm using this as a fulcrum point. I'm trying to drive my shoulder directly to the cage through him. So we're here, I'm driving through at an angle, almost like a 45-degree angle. I connect my hands. From here, I take this leg, I step around, blocking his knee. Now I'm just gonna pressure through the cage and spin his body. So I'm here, I use my knee to block his legs out from under him, and I look to the right with my head. Elevating his body, now I can set him down and finish my takedown. One more time, all the way through. So we're here, I drive in, he brings me up, I get to my underhook, head same side, pin the arm, and now from here, I'm gonna drop my weight down, connect my hands. Foot goes outside, blocks the knee, I look up and to the right, and I rotate his body. Now I've controlled top position. Now, let's say we get here and the defensive person bails out of this position. They realize they've already lost. He's going to give me access to his back because he thinks it's a far superior position than being on his back on the ground. So we're here, I take the shot, he pulls me up. I go to control inside position with my underhook, my head, and my arm. From here, I start to drop down, and he goes ahead and bails out, bringing his overhook in front of my body, putting his shoulder in front. From here, I'm going to go ahead and switch, come up to the waist, and take the back. Okay? From this position, there's a lot of very common mistakes. You can put the front side hook in, but you need to control this wrist so they cannot turn away. If I keep this body lock and I just try to put this hook in, he can now put his backside to the cage and use that to peel me off. I can't follow through his body to the cage. So eventually he's going to win this battle, get his hips away, and get away from me. So if I want to put this front side hook in, I need to make sure I control the inside wrist. Now he can no longer turn away. So I get here, I put the hook in, and I control this wrist at the same time. Now if he wanted to turn his back to the cage, he cannot. From here, I can control the hook, keep him off balance, and strike. It's now his job to make a decision or make a move, because I can sit here all day and win the fight. I don't have to do anything. Alternatively, if he never allows me to get that wrist, I have a bit of a problem, because I'm controlling that and I'm using a lot of energy here. What I need to do is make sure I get to a dominant position to where I don't have to expend too much energy controlling him. So if I'm here and I'm squeezing, but he's doing a good job of not letting me control this wrist, and he's already trying to get his back to the cage, I need to start putting my body between the cage and him, so he can't use that to separate us. How I'm going to do that is give him a little push and then a pull with my hips. I lower my level, I push, and I pull, creating a little bit of separation between the cage and him. Now from here, I'm going to put my body between the cage and his body, rotating my hips inside. Now there's no way he can create separation between the cage and me. I'm here, and he can never make it back. So what I do is I connect my hands and return him to the mat just like we would in open space. Now from here, I have a dominant position, and we can begin our ground and pound. So one more time all the way through. We're here. I enter, and he pulls me up. Now I need to make sure I immediately control the underhook, head inside position, and arm control. From here, I go ahead and create this space, pushing his elbow up. I drop my head into the pocket. Try to connect my hands. My foot could step outside, and I can lift, rotating all the way to the ground. Alternatively, he stops me from doing that by giving me his back. From here, I climb to the back, and I get the body lock. Now, if I want to control this front side with the hook, I need to make sure I control this inside wrist. From here, I control the inside wrist. Now I can put the hook in and start doing damaging strikes until he decides to make a move. From here, I can sit here all day, I am in control, and I can win the fight. Now, let's say he's ahead of me, and he does not let me control this inside wrist. He keeps it away. I have this body lock, I can't get to it, and I'm expending a lot of energy squeezing here. So I need to make a decision quick. I need to put myself between him and the cage so he can no longer use that to separate us. So I push him and pull, creating space, and I put my body in between him and the cage. Now, all I'm going to do is explode with my hips forward, bumping his hips out of the way, and I rotate his body with my elbows. So I'm not lifting using a deadlift motion on my lower back. I'm popping my hips and just turning him forward. It's very energy efficient, even though many people think it takes a lot of energy to do or a lot of strength. So we're here. I pop my hips forward and turn him towards his hands. Now we're in a dominant position, and I can begin my ground and pound. One more thing we can do here is if I get pulled up from my double leg, I can go to a body lock and start using my legs to drag him to the ground. So if I take the double leg and he pulls me up and I lose this position on the legs, I can just grab the body. From here, he's going to push his weight into the cage to make sure that I cannot get a body lock and simply lift. But to do that, he has to put a lot of weight in his feet. When he does that, I'm going to decide to pick a foot, putting all his weight onto this foot, and now I simply grab it with my hook, and I reap it out, pulling him as I rotate. One more time, I enter, he pulls me up to the body lock. I have the body lock. Now notice, my head is no longer on the inside. That's okay here. I've controlled both sides of his hips. If he tries to run that way with his butt out, I can follow. And my whole body's on this side, so he can't go this way. So now it's perfectly fine to have my head on this side of the body. From here, I reap the leg, pulling it up, creating a bit of a triangle here. It's almost like if I was to lock my legs a triangle, but I'm keeping it open. From here, I'm just going to rotate to the ground. Now I'm on top, and I can begin passing the guard or ground and pounding. So we went over getting some takedowns from space, using the cage as a new medium to bounce them, get their hips controlled, or even as they use the cage to keep themselves upright, we still control them, control the inside positions, use our unhooks to get to dominant positions, and finish on the cage with our doubles legs, single legs, and body locks. If you guys have any questions, feel free to drop it in the comment, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you to my lovely partner here, Alexi Toivonen, and the team here at Evolve MMA. See you guys next time.